Right, test. Looks like we are live. Welcome back to another severe weather live stream. Obviously, there's no severe weather tonight, but we'll be looking at the potential for severe weather tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. There's a lot to get to in this live stream. I will probably be live for an hour, but we'll get to most of what you need to know within the next 10 minutes. Everything you know from the severe weather, obviously the setup as well. There's a lot to stuff to watch with this because there's 3 days that we have to watch for severe weather, including tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'll go live if needed, most likely on Tuesday. Tomorrow is kind of a 50-50 at this point. Wednesday will most likely be in the morning, so I usually don't go live if it's morning stuff. And we aren't really looking at a whole lot on Wednesday. But obviously, make sure you stay updated with North Texas Weather Center. If any point you come into the stream late, you can always watch from the beginning of this forecast and get all the details that you need to know. And as well, make sure to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you do enjoy this live stream and you'd love to see more of these, please support our stream by even donating or becoming a member here on YouTube or become a supporter on Facebook. Let's get started with the forecast. Obviously, people will be trickling in as we go throughout the live stream, but obviously there's a lot to get to, and that does start with tomorrow's potential for severe weather. And we're looking at the potential for maybe some isolated discrete supercells tomorrow, which obviously a lot of you guys on my Facebook and also other places have been commenting and saying the forecast isn't really showing rain, at least on the weather app or whatever. I've seen this like hundreds of times, and all I gotta say is the weather app that you use is not always going to be reliable, and it's not always going to bring you specific information in terms of what to expect. The cap is going to be in place tomorrow afternoon. That is a given. However, if the cap does weaken enough, we could see a few discrete supercells, which could prompt all modes of severe weather. That's what we're watching for very closely tomorrow. There's a chance we don't see any storms tomorrow, and there's a chance that 20 to maybe 25% of us do see a few thunderstorms. So we'll have to watch this pretty closely. There's a slight risk of severe weather for DFW and also eastern DFW in North Texas. Gainesville is also included in this. The marginal risk kind of gets cut off in Montague County as well as Jack County and also Palo Pinto counties. Those counties are all kind of on the dividing line of the marginal risk. But I would expect most of the severe weather tomorrow to most likely be in this area here. It looks like this will all fire up most likely east of I-35, so anyone in Denton County and Tarrant County, not out of the question, but it looks like there's a fairly low chance of any severe storms for tomorrow. So more on this in just a moment. We'll go through every day, and then we'll eventually get to the specifics and details. Let's take a look at what we're expecting for hail potential for tomorrow. So there's a hatched region which includes all of DFW, eastern North Texas. Basically, it's a pretty large area that this hatched area is included. Now, what's the hatched area mean? That means there's a potential for 2 inches in diameter or greater hailstones at about a 10% probability within a 25-mile radius. So if any storms do develop, we could see a large to very large hail threat out of some of these storms, and especially the ones that immediately blow up and become very strong to severe. Any storm that develops tomorrow will likely become severe within about 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, these storms are going to rapidly develop. However, again, there's a chance that we don't see storms tomorrow. There's a very good chance, actually, that we don't see storms tomorrow. This is all basically due to the potential for maybe some storms developing tomorrow. Our best chance for storms will be Tuesday. It almost looks given that we'll at least see about 40 to 50% of DFW seeing storms. More on that in just a moment, though. Again, a hail potential does develop or exist at least for DFW if storms do break through the cap. It's all going to depend on the temperatures and a bunch of other factors. Obviously, we'll make sure to monitor those very closely for you tomorrow. And again, we'll look at specifics in just a few minutes. Let's take a look at the tornado probability for tomorrow. Again, I think most of any storms that develop will develop east of I-35 tomorrow. That would make it so that the tornado threat is likely going to be east of I-35. So anyone in eastern DFW on a very low end chance of maybe an isolated brief tornado, and then back up to the northwest areas near Bonham will have a better chance of maybe a tornado or two in that brown shaded area. That's a 5% chance within a 25-mile radius. Let's take a look at the damaging wind outlook. It's basically the same as what we're just looking at the beginning with the slight outlook. Anyone in the slight region has a chance for maybe some damaging wind gusts between 60 to 65 miles per hour if a severe storm develops. And again, it's a big if. We'll have to watch this fairly closely because there is, again, a chance that we don't see any storms tomorrow. Tuesday is our biggest threat day, at least as of right now, and I don't think this is going to change. I think we're at least going to see an enhanced risk of severe weather and likely several discrete supercells that develop, which could lead and prompt all modes of severe weather. That's why we have to watch Tuesday extremely closely. Monday is going to be a day to watch, but it's not going to be nearly as important as what we're looking at on Tuesday. You can see there's enhanced risk of severe weather, at least for most of DFW. I mean, this includes Dallas, Denton, Tarrant Tarrant, as well as Collin counties. It includes basically anyone in DFW and as well as northern North Texas. So anyone that's right along the Red River Valley. There's a slight risk that extends out closer to Graham and as well as Stephenville, and as well as Jacksboro and Mineral Wells. Those areas are included in a slight risk. Marginal risk does go just far enough west to almost include all of our coverage area, but it goes into Wichita Falls as well. So again, Tuesday's gonna be the worst day, I think, for severe weather. More on the timing and everything in that in about a couple of minutes, so we'll get to that in just a moment. Going into Wednesday, there's a chance for maybe some severe weather during the morning hours, during between about 6 to 12 o'clock, so primarily from like 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. I would expect most of the severe weather to be out to our east, and the Storm Prediction Center has been shifting this area further east, kind of how I was already imagining this would happen, because we're not really going to see much severe weather in DFW. I at least don't think Wednesday morning. I'm forecasting for most of us to maybe see a couple of storms on the low end threat of maybe a couple of, quarter-sized hailstorms and maybe some damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. Slight risk does exist, though, for anyone in eastern DFW, eastern North Texas, and it goes into northeastern Texas as the enhanced risk for severe weather. So there might be a severe weather outbreak out to our east going into Wednesday afternoon, but that is not going to be a concern to us. All right, what's the setup? Obviously, there's a big question mark of what we'll see in terms of, what is making this happen? Well, there's a very strong low pressure system that's moving off to the northeast. Now, Monday's the scenario for Monday is a little bit different. This will be the what's going to happen for Tuesday and Wednesday. This low pressure system, as it moves off to the northeast, will be the reason why we see severe weather on Tuesday and Wednesday. You can see this. Let's see if it loads. There we go. All right, so you can kind of see this low pressure system moves off to the northeast going into Tuesday into Wednesday. This will prompt that potential for a very strong cold front to kind of bring us the potential for severe weather. So we'll have the southerly winds coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. We'll also have that dry line set up back out to our west. This will all be what's going to help to aid the potential for severe weather. We'll have enormous amounts of instability. Shear is going to be very strong as well. So we have all the ingredients there for Tuesday and as well as Wednesday. Again, Tuesday being the main day, Wednesday being primarily to our east, and then eventually you kind of see this low pressure system moves off to the north. But I mean, the millibars in that low pressure system are expected to be around 985. That is a very strong low pressure system to begin with. So I mean, that's why we're looking at a very good chance for maybe some severe weather. Let's take a look at Monday in terms of what to expect for timing, and this is the scenario if the cap does break. Now, many computer models, any convective allowing ones, meaning like the HRR, the NAM3K, those ones are not really showing much of anything in terms of storms because of the strong cap. Now, again, if the cap does weaken, this is the scenario that I would be most looking at, because this is the potential that we have going into Monday afternoon. By about 4 o'clock, some storms will develop back out to our east. There might even be a couple in DFW. You can kind of see going back to the 1 o'clock time here on the European model. There's a couple of maybe some storms developing, nothing strong it looks like or severe at that point, but they could maybe develop and potentially bring a little bit of severe weather. But it looks like, again, the worst threats will probably be in eastern DFW. I'd expect any storms that break the cap, if they do, would be east of DFW. So areas like Tyler, in between Tyler and Dallas, and maybe Paris, seeing that potential for some severe storms tomorrow, again, if the cap breaks. It's a big if, and I know I'm going to mention it several times because it's just such a big question mark. We don't really know yet until we get there, until a weather balloon's launched and we can kind of figure out what's going on right around the early afternoon hours, see if the cap is weakened enough for storms to develop. Eventually, by 7 o'clock, all the storms are way off the screen. You can't even see them anymore, but they're all way in Louisiana and Arkansas. These storms are going to be quick moving on Monday. Not too much of a concern for us. Let's take a quick look at the temperatures, and I'll get to the other timing as well as the setup. So going to the temperatures tomorrow morning, will be all in the upper 60s and lower 70s. You can see by the afternoon hours, many of us could maybe even get into the 90s. This will be something to watch out for. If we get into the 90s, that would definitely be probably enough to break the cap here in DFW. That's kind of what the HR at least is showing at this point. Take a look at the dew points, by the way. We are going to be very humid tomorrow. You can see the dew points will be in the 60s. You will feel a brief drop off from humidity if you're in northwestern DFW tomorrow evening. Why? Because the dry line is going to push to the southeast. We'll have a weak cold front come through tomorrow evening. This will all, again, kind of be the beginning of the potential for severe weather on Tuesday, because once this cold front moves through, it's going to be weak. It's going to basically weaken as it moves out to the east. We'll see that dry line kind of push into DFW, and then it's going to back up. And now when that backs up, we're going to see a big increase in humidity again for northwestern DFW. So you can see dew points maybe in the upper 40s or lower 50s. They will eventually skyrocket back into the 60s and maybe even closer to 70 going into Tuesday. I mean, you can see Dallas 68 for a dew point Tuesday morning. It is going to be sticky out there. It's going to be moist. It's going to be humid. So just make sure you're aware of that. It's going to feel a lot warmer than what the temperature actually is. Going into Tuesday, you can see dew points will eventually drop by the evening, but that is well after we'll see that potential for severe weather here in DFW. I think the severe storms will likely happen during the early afternoon hours in comparison to what we sometimes see with overnight storms. These should mainly be during the early afternoon hours. Let's take a look at the instability. Now, obviously, as I kind of said before, the instability is through the roof. I mean, we're looking at values between 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram, which is plenty for the potential for some severe storms. So you can see that instability Monday really starts to spike up into the 2,000s, closer to 3,000, which is plenty, again, for potential for severe storms, and eventually maybe as high as 3,200, 3,300 joules per kilogram, which, if you're not whole lot, you know, if you don't know a whole lot about joules per kilogram and the instability with the CAPE index, it basically means it's a lot. I mean, we're talking about a lot of instability in the atmosphere, which is plenty for that potential for severe storms and storms in general. But again, the cap is the big question, and that cap seems to be strong tomorrow, and it depends on what temperature we get to in the afternoon hours to see if that cap does weaken. Going back into the instability going to Tuesday, the values will still be fairly high. I mean, even in Oklahoma, they'll get to 4,000 potentially. Here closer to DFW, it looks like we'll be in the 3,000, low 3,000s and upper 2,000s, which is, again, it's still enough for severe weather. Any inbound is enough, but that's just something to keep in mind. Taking a look at the cap. So this is a little look at what it's basically called the CIN, which is basically the cap. Now, the cap is a little layer up in the atmosphere. It's warm air above a cold layer of air. That's basically what that is. So when we look at this, we need a certain temperature to be able to see when that cap will weaken and when we could see severe weather. Now, that temperature is determined by an enormous amount of math I'm not going to do on the stream, but you can kind of get the general picture. A strong cap will be in place in the morning on Monday, and then eventually the model kind of shows a little weakening in the cap. Now, usually we need values closer to about -30 or less to see that potential for maybe some, you know, storms kind of breaking through that cap, and this is right around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you can see values closer to DFW, and I can't zoom in on this, but you can see closer to DFW between about 30 to 70. That's still not really enough for storms to develop, but again, the cap could very well weaken, and you can see eventually by about 21Z, which is about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you can see eventually that cap starts to weaken in eastern and northeastern DFW. So that's when we could see that potential for some storms developing on Monday. Again, it's a big if. Will we see that cap weaken is still a massive question that we can't answer, but we will know more information by about lunchtime tomorrow, and you should be able to see some updates from the National Weather Service and as well from our page, North Texas Weather Center, on both Facebook and as well as our YouTube page. Going into Tuesday, the cap is going to still be fairly strong, but it'll weaken by the early afternoon hours back out to the west where that dry line sets up. We're going to have a pretty much no cap, which will allow for convection again to, there will be enough convection and obviously enough instability for storms to develop back out to our west. So anywhere closer to I-35, excuse me, off to the west, we'll have that chance for maybe some storms developing then and eventually moving toward DFW. So just some information for you. Obviously, this stream is not really, it's not for everybody. I know this stream is going to be very detailed and descriptive. I'm kind of giving you the information on kind of what everything means and kind of put it into your own words and see kind of what you know about this stuff. Obviously, a lot of you guys are probably new to this stuff, like the cap and all that, stuff. It's basically a lot of weather information, but it's kind of giving you an idea of what we're looking at going into the next couple of days. And this is stuff that you might want to learn because we'll obviously have severe weather almost every year in North Texas. So it's just something to keep in mind. All right, tornado parameter. This is another little tool that we use. Tornado, the values for tomorrow aren't that high, at least for DFW. I mean, they're between about 0 to maybe a half. That's basically meaning it's a low end risk or very low end risk. Off to the northeast, closer areas in southeastern Oklahoma, the values are closer to 1 to 2, which is plenty potentially for a couple of tornadoes. So just something to keep in mind. Going into Tuesday, it's a bit of a different story. Again, the values skyrocket back out to our west, closer to 2. So again, tornado threat seems to be a bit higher on Tuesday in comparison to Monday. And then also the hail and damaging wind threat seem to definitely be the highest, at least for Tuesday. Wednesday is a bit of a different story. Values will be higher out to our east, closer to DFW, not much of a tornado threat. Again, we will see that cold front move through early Wednesday. Or the dry line, early Wednesday. The cold front will come through a little bit later on Wednesday. And that'll, again, push the storms back out to our east. Severe weather, lesser during the morning hours on Wednesday, so not much of a threat. All right, take a look at the HRR model. Now, this is going to be over the next couple of days. This is kind of looking at tomorrow in terms of what it's forecasting. A couple of maybe isolated storms near Waco tomorrow around 11 in the morning. That's kind of what it's showing. But after that, the HRR doesn't really show much. And the only storms it shows, at least for Monday, are well back off to our northeast, where the cap is definitely going to be a bit weaker in comparison to DFW. But I would still be concerned about this area tomorrow in case some storms do fire up. Again, a storm could fire up back out to the west closer to Denton County, but I just think the best potential will be in this area where the cap seems to be able to weaken a bit more than areas closer to areas like Denton County. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's going to be something to watch. Everybody should be watching for the potential for an isolated discrete supercell or two tomorrow. Make sure you have a safety plan in place just in case. It's not a huge threat tomorrow. Again, unless the cap breaks, which if the cap breaks, 20 to maybe 25% of us would see a couple of storms, and that could again be severe without a doubt. So something to watch out for tomorrow. All right, let's head into Tuesday in terms of timing with the HRR model and kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. And also, I'll get to questions in a few minutes. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. I will be going through chat here in a few minutes, both on YouTube and as well as on Facebook. Look at both of those. We're live streaming on both platforms, so if you see somebody's question or if you hear me answering a question that's not on the platform that you're watching on, that's because I'm looking at both chats at once. All right, going to Tuesday. So take a look at the storms for Tuesday. This is about 10 in the morning. There's a couple of showers and maybe a couple of downpours. Isolated storm back down to our south. That'll be because of all the humidity coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. We'll have plenty of moisture, plenty of instability for that potential for maybe a couple of isolated showers or maybe even a isolated weak storm during the morning hours. Eventually by lunchtime, we still see maybe a couple of passing showers. Nothing crazy at this point. That'll all change right around 1 to 2 o'clock, and or maybe a little bit later. Closer to about 3 o'clock, the HR model at least shows that there's potential for some discrete supercells start to develop as early as about 2 to 3 o'clock. I can't rule out a few storms developing as early as 1 o'clock, just because the cap is going to be weak very early in the day comparison to what we could see, tomorrow in terms of Monday and the potential for some severe storms. Closer to 4 o'clock, discrete supercell potentially developing back down to the southwest. And again, if something like this happens, a tornado threat will be definitely a possibility, damaging winds and large hail. And if they're this discrete, I would definitely be concerned about that potential for a tornado or two. And it could even be, I can't even rule out a strong tornado during the daytime Tuesday. This will be something to watch fairly closely. By 5 o'clock, more storms start to blow up back out to the west, back west of I-35. And again, I think Tuesday is going to be the worst day for severe weather. Storms develop in this region here, and they'll be moving off to the northeast pretty quickly as well. It won't be too slow of this moving system. By 6 o'clock, storms enter western DFW. This one discrete supercell that might develop out in front of it kind of starts to fizzle out. At least that's what the model's showing. Things might change. Obviously, things are not always exactly to what the model is showing, but by about 6 o'clock, storms moving through anywhere in DFW at this point, and then eventually by about 7, the storms move off to the northeast. Discrete supercells, again, still possible out of some of these storms, and any discrete cell, again, any discrete supercells have that potential for tornadoes, large hail, damaging winds, all threats possible usually with any discrete supercells. In most situations. In this situation, we would have all potential for any threat happening. All right. Heading into Wednesday, this is another computer model. I'm going through a bunch of computer models, but they're just kind of give you the general picture. Going on Wednesday, there might be a couple of storms during the morning hours, again, between about 6 to 10 in the morning in DFW. I'd expect that on the earlier time frame. By 10 in the morning, a little area of storm starts to develop back out to the east, and it will basically push off to the east, potentially posing all threats of severe weather, but again, that will not impact our region. You can see they've become very severe off to the east about 1 o'clock tomorrow, or excuse me, not tomorrow, Wednesday. So just something to keep in mind. It's not really much for DFW in terms of Wednesday, but something to watch. Instability values for Wednesday as well. I know, or let's kind of go into Tuesday. Let me refresh this real quick, just so it does not lag out a whole lot. And I am not logged in. Yep. All right, going back to the instability values for Tuesday and Wednesday. This is something else to watch out for. I apologize. I don't know why I was not logged in. Let's go to this. All right, so here's the instability values for Tuesday and Wednesday. So the values are still going to be fairly high on Wednesday. They will be as high as 2 to 3,000 again in DFW. Primarily out to our east is where we'll see severe weather, because obviously we usually don't see severe weather between 6 to like 8 in the morning. It's not really a prime time for severe weather to begin with, but I would expect most of the severe weather potential to be out to our east. So you can see the instability values rise right around 9 in the morning. Eventually by lunchtime, values closer to 3,000. In comparison to DFW, right around 6 in the morning, the values are more like 2,000 or less, which is still plenty for severe weather. It's just the timing and all the setup basically will not allow for much severe weather on Wednesday, at least for DFW. And then eventually going into Saturday, by the way, I will show you this in just a moment. There might be a better chance for some rain on Saturday. Lapse rates is something to watch out for. Now, the higher lapse rate is in terms of degrees Celsius, the more convection is available. So on Tuesday, for example, you can see values right around 9 in the morning. They're close to 9. Now, a typical lapse rate is between about 6 to 7 for comparison. So you can see values closer to 8 to 9 are very fast in terms of how much convection is available going to Tuesday. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's more of a scientific thing. Again, I am very nerdy about weather, so that's kind of something that I learned in class a few weeks ago, but it's just something to keep in mind. All right, that's basically it for the I would call this a little presentation about the weather that's coming up in the next several days. I will go over questions in just a second. Let me show you something that might be coming up on Saturday, because I know a few people were asking, will we have a widespread rain on Friday and Saturday? So this is Friday, again, right around the early afternoon hours. Some showers and maybe a couple of storms possible during the afternoon Friday. No severe weather is expected at this point. I wouldn't expect a whole lot of severe weather. Going to Saturday, some more showers possible, primarily off to our northeast, and then Sunday, maybe even some more rain. and then eventually by Monday, that frontal boundary should move out, as well as that low pressure system. Just something to keep in mind. Going to the European model real quick to kind of give you a general picture on what that's showing as well for that same day. A couple of showers and storms Friday, eventually into Saturday, it kind of clears out. Maybe Sunday or Monday, another little line of storms might develop. Severe weather, again, possible at any point during the severe weather season, but it does not look like this will be much of a severe event on Friday and Saturday. Not a washout by any means, but maybe some scattered showers. Just make sure you keep that in mind if you have any weekend plans coming up. Alrighty, that was a lot. Let's go ahead and get to some questions. If you have any questions, you can leave them in chat here on Facebook, on YouTube, either platform, and I will obviously answer them. And yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be looking at. Now, if you have any questions, again, leave them in chat. I will get to them, and yeah, all right. No problem, Duels. Hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not. I appreciate your compliment. All right, I am flying into DFW at 5:30 tomorrow. Yeah, you should be okay. Kind of give you an idea. Let me just go and show you this real quick. Go to the HR model. Let's go to local. And I'll show you the dew point. So this kind of just give you an idea of what we're looking at tomorrow by 2 to 3 o'clock. I think if you're flying to Fort Worth, which I'm assuming you are, yeah, you should be fine, because you can see by 3 o'clock the dew points. I mean, they've already dropped off. The dry line's already moving through the DFW Metroplex, which is why, again, the cap will probably weaken at some point tomorrow. I just don't think it's going to be in DFW. Again, I think the worst threat will probably be in this area here, mainly due to the fact that the cap might weaken right around 3 to 4 o'clock. That's when it looks like it will happen. If it does, maybe 5 to 6 even. But again, the dry line's going to push through DFW by then, and it'll be too dry for any severe weather to occur. There might be, you know, a small delay because of storms being in the area, if any develop, but other than that, I don't think it'll be too bad for you. And then eventually this dry line moves back off to the northwest, which will be pretty interesting. I mean, you can see a lot of people in Denton County tomorrow. I bet you will be like, it's gonna be in the morning, like it's so humid. You go out, you know, at 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, it is so dry out. And then you go back outside at like 8 to 9 o'clock, and you're like, why is it so humid again? I mean, it's a crazy pattern that we're looking at. I mean, it goes from very humid to dry to pretty humid again. I mean, you know, dew points in the lower 50s are still, you know, a little bit humid, but it's definitely not as humid as well will be. I mean, dew points will be in the 60s, so. Is Tuesday severe weather in DFW going to be overnight? No. Tuesday severe weather will be during the daytime hours. I can go ahead and pull that back up. Find it. I have a lot of tabs open, so it might take me a second. All right, there we go. This is what we're looking at in terms of timing for Thursday, or not Thursday, Tuesday. I'm all over the place with days. But you can see right around 4 o'clock, some storms in southwestern DFW, eventually moving through DFW. Storms will be out of here by about 9 to 10 o'clock at the latest. So just keep that in mind. Again, severe weather primarily during the afternoon hours, maybe early evening. Definitely not overnight, though. And there might be some storms, you know, early Wednesday during about 6 to 10 in the morning, but again, it won't probably be severe, and they will likely be after you wake up. I don't know when you wake up, but I don't know when anybody wakes up here, but honestly, I wake up at like 10 o'clock, so, you know, I will not be able to cover any severe weather Wednesday morning, but I don't really expect much anyways. If there was to be severe weather, I would get up early, but I don't think there will be much, so at this time at least. If there is, I will definitely, you know, I'll definitely be up, but I don't think it will be that bad Wednesday morning, at least for DFW and North Texas. All right. Will these storms only be hitting in the afternoon, evening hours the next 2 to 3 days? Yeah, basically. I mean, at least for tomorrow and Tuesday, they will primarily be during the afternoon and early evening. Wednesday is going to be primarily during the morning, or will be during the morning. It will not be during the afternoon. The dry line will move through Wednesday by, you know, about 9 or 10 o'clock in DFW. Do you think the National Weather Service will go to moderate threat for Tuesday? No, I don't think they will. Unless something dramatically changes, but I don't think, you know, the setup is there, but again, I don't think we'll see, at least as of right now, I don't think we'll see a moderate threat. I think the highest it'll go is enhanced. Going back to the enhanced risk real quick, this is kind of looking at what we're looking at this point for Tuesday. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to follow us here on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, whatever platform you're watching on. If you'd like to support our stream even more, become a Facebook supporter or even become a YouTube member. It starts from as low as $2.99 per month. Helps our page out a lot. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Will there be an outbreak for DFW in Tuesday for tornadoes? No, I don't think there will be an outbreak, but again, on Tuesday, there will probably be about 40% of us at least that see storms. But the thing is, I think that if there might be like tornadoes, but there probably won't be a tornado outbreak. Tornado outbreak is usually 8 to 10 tornadoes at the minimum. In this case, we're looking at maybe 3, maybe 4 tornadoes at the most. And again, maybe one of these is long tracked or maybe strong, but that's kind of a question mark right now. But I think that's probably what we're looking at least for Tuesday. Yeah, I don't think for Tuesday, I don't think we're looking at an outbreak. I had that question a few times. No, I don't think we're looking at an outbreak for Tuesday, particularly because of, I don't think there'll be enough storms. There might be an outbreak. I mean, if you consider, at least for North Texas, I don't think there will be an outbreak. If you're considering all of the southern plains, there might be an outbreak. They might consider it as an outbreak. But at least there's an enhanced risk for severe weather, so there's obviously a higher threat. There could be. I mean, there's obviously no doubt there could be an outbreak, but I think at this point for DFW, there might be some, there will probably be damaging winds. There'll probably be large hail. And there'll probably be a few tornadoes in some spots, but I don't think it'll be a complete outbreak. The tornado threat for Tuesday in DFW, where do you think will primarily occur? I think for the most part, it's kind of hard to determine, but I would expect any tornado threat to primarily be in this area to start out with. It would probably be 1 to maybe 2 tornadoes in this area, but I think that would probably be the highest threat just because of the initial discrete supercells developing. And most of these should probably be discrete for a couple of hours at first when they develop. So if they do develop and they do if they're kind of discrete like this, I mean, we could very well see a couple of tornadoes in this area on Tuesday. I think that's probably the highest threat at this point. Now, that could be different. I'm just going off of what I think will happen. The National Weather Service will have a prediction out by 2 in the morning tonight if you want to stay up for that, but I will not be up for that. I'll be up tomorrow, though. Sorry, I missed. What will Monday be like? Rain, tornadoes. Yeah, let me go back to Monday. I will do a small breakdown for Monday. Sorry, my water ball's obnoxious. Makes a really loud noise. I don't know if you can hear that. All right, let's go to Monday and kind of give you a little breakdown on what we're looking at then. So kind of as I said before, Monday, which is tomorrow, is kind of a toss-up. I mean, there could be a couple of storms. There could be absolutely nothing. It could be sunshine all day. I mean, there's basically 2 scenarios to this. But I think for severe weather purposes, at least for right now, I'm forecasting 25% chance of maybe some storms or 25% coverage. This might not happen, though. I'll be honest. This very well could not happen, but there's a potential, again, for severe weather. All the environmental parameters are in place. If a storm does break through the cap, which is possible, and it looks kind of, about 50% chance it breaks through the cap, storms could potentially produce all threats of severe weather. That is why it's concerning for tomorrow. It's going to be discrete. It's going to be isolated. It will not be for everybody. I think oops, I did not mean to skip ahead. I think the greatest threat for severe weather will, again, be in this area for tomorrow. And again, all threats possible, large hail, potentially up to as high as baseball sized if a storm breaks through the cap. Damaging winds up to maybe 70 miles per hour, and a possibility for a tornado does exist. The tornado threat should primarily be up here to the north and probably out of our coverage area, but there's a potential primarily north of Paris and southeastern Oklahoma. So that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of severe weather setup for tomorrow. By 4 o'clock, you can see some storms possibly again, and I would expect maybe a couple of isolated storms to develop maybe closer to DFW. It's a possibility if the cap breaks. If it doesn't break in DFW and it breaks off to the east, we could see some severe weather back out to our east. And these could be our discrete supercells basically out of our coverage area, except the exclusion being Paris. Paris is now in our coverage area, by the way, so if you're new here, and if you live in Paris, Paris is now in the North Texas Weather Center coverage area. But other than that, that is kind of where we're looking at this point in terms of severe weather. I think that any severe weather, again, will probably be east of DFW, maybe an eastern DFW here, like, Dallas or maybe Plano. But again, it's a 25% chance. There's about a 50% chance the cap does break tomorrow. And again, if it does, we could very well see some severe storms. No problem, Diana. Or Diane. Are going to be any tornadoes in the Claiborne area? I mean, you have a chance for tornadoes, but there's no way to predict if there will be a tornado in your location over the next 3 days or any day in general. It's just not possible. But yeah, I mean, at this point, there's a chance, but it's pretty low. Not on Monday, though. Monday, again, this is the tornado outlook for Monday. So the area that I'm most concerned about for any tornado threat will be back off to the northeast. I didn't really draw that line well, but basically anywhere that brown shaded area has a 5% chance within a 25-mile radius. The green shaded area has a 2% chance within a 25-mile radius. Anywhere outside of that area is a very, very low to zero risk. So, are there any visuals to show the cap breaking? Yes, I can bring that up. I'll show you the HR model in terms of what it's showing. All right, this is what it's looking at. So this is again, the CIN, which is the cap. That's the kind of computer model here. And again, any purples, whites, tans, reds, those are all strong caps. That's basically what it's showing. It's a strong cap, meaning that in the atmosphere, there's a warm layer of air above the cold layer of air, somewhere around where clouds develop. So just something to kind of keep in mind. But this is during the morning hours Monday, so right around 8 in the morning at this point. Strong cap still in place. Eventually, the HR model does start to show a weakening of the cap near the dry line, which is pretty typical. It's kind of hard to see because I can't zoom in on this, but you can see the values right around -30 to -50 joules per kilogram, which is not nearly enough to weaken the cap completely or even just bring up a bunch of storms. But there could be a couple of storms developing here around 1 to 2 o'clock. Eventually, by about 4 or 5 o'clock, you can see the cap is a little bit weaker here, closer to DFW. Values closer to about -10 to 0. Much better. Anything below -30 is usually going to be able to develop maybe a couple of storms. You can see this is where I think the worst severe weather potential does exist tomorrow, mainly due to the fact the cap is almost guaranteed to break there. You can see there's a lot of white space, and that white space here is really representing the cap basically being gone. So anywhere in southeastern Oklahoma and Arkansas, it's that potential for some severe storms tomorrow. Then the cap eventually weakens out in northeastern Texas, but it might be a little bit too late for storms to develop. Then the dry line set up here, so I mean, the dry line will kind of determine where those storms develop. Now, here's the dry line. Let's go and go into a little lesson here. All right, here's the dry line, right? That black line. Let me make it a little bit older here. So here's your dry line here. Now, storms will likely, or most likely, or usually develop along the dry line or a cold front. So in this case, there will be developing across the dry line. Now, when you can kind of look at this and see there's a lot of white space up here, which basically means there's almost no cap. And then there's some grays here and maybe even a little bit of yellow that's kind of representing that there's at least some sort of cap in place. The best chance for any storms to develop will be in this area here, back off to the northeast. Now here, closer to areas like DFW, right along the dry line at least, there is not a whole lot of development space. Now again, there might be one place in North Texas, let's say Dallas is 92 degrees, and then there's, you know, not Tyler, Texas, let's go to Plano, Texas, where it's like 86 degrees. The cap might break where it's 92 degrees in comparison to 86 degrees, and there could be a storm that develops over Dallas. So just something to kind of keep in mind. It's a little bit of a, you know, lesson there, but if you kind of look at the radar real quick, and I'll kind of show you for, you know, example of what we're looking at here. Let's go and kind of show you. This is the dry line. This is going to around when the storms develop tomorrow. See, the storms are a little bit more prominent around here, closer areas off to the east and northeast. And then you can see this right along the dry line. Kind of as I already said, where the cap is basically non-existent is where Arkansas and also southern Missouri is, and you can kind of get the general picture of where I literally just outlined where the cap is basically weakened here in northern portions of Arkansas and western portions of Arkansas. That is where you'll see those discrete supercells. There could be one closer to DFW. That's not out of the question, but it's going to take a lot of, you know, it takes a lot of factors, and we'll have more information at least probably around lunchtime tomorrow on you know, what to expect. We can see these are really potent storms and where there's no cap at all in northern and central Oklahoma, right around, you know, 3 in the morning. So just something to keep in mind. There's not really, you know, it's just kind of what you're kind of looking at sometimes when there's a cap and when there's not a cap. Yeah, that's a bit of a detailed explanation, at least, of what the cap kind of shows. David. Yeah, I honestly, I can't tell you if there will be a tornado on that street and in that place, but I will get back to you on that. Timing for Tuesday. Yeah, I'll go back to that. Here's the timing for Tuesday. And I'll get to the other question in just a second. So here's the time for Tuesday. A couple of isolated showers in the morning, maybe early afternoon. Storms will eventually develop probably around 2 to 3 o'clock. So you can see maybe a cell developing then. Let me go back to the black color. Shows that a little bit more here. So you can see by about 3 o'clock, the potential for some storms starts to develop. Discrete supercells possible. By 4 to 5 o'clock, you can see those storms get closer to DFW, start to develop even closer to I-9 or I-35. I keep saying I-95. I-35. And eventually, by about 6 or 7 o'clock, you can see these storms move through the DFW Metroplex, and we will probably dry out by right around 8 o'clock. This is 6 o'clock again. Yeah, I got you, David. What do you think the percent is going to be for Tuesday for tornadoes? At this point, I mean, if I was going to go off the Storm Prediction Center's, you know, outlook or probability or, you know, what they call it, I would probably say that the percent chance for a tornado will probably be right around 5%, but there is a possibility they put it at a 10% chance. I will not rule it out, but I think it'll probably be right around a 5% probability within a 25-mile radius, but it definitely could be a 10% chance within a 25-mile radius as well. Can't rule it out. It might happen. It might not. It's, you know, they kind of make that forecast. I don't have any influence in it, but You know, that's kind of what I'm looking at this point. I think it'll be probably on the low end scale, but maybe, you know, mainly because it will be more of a discrete situation where these storms are a bit more spread apart. That's why I would think that might happen. Probably be a 5% chance. Sanger and Denton area in terms of if you can give me like a day or a time frame, I can kind of give you a little bit of an idea. By the way, just a reminder, if you haven't already, make sure to follow us here on Facebook if you're new. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on our way to 1,800 subscribers on YouTube. I appreciate your support. And yeah, that's basically about it. I'll be live probably for a while, by the way, so if you have any other questions, just keep them coming. I don't have much else to do tonight. And I am so sunburnt. I went golfing this afternoon here in Florida, and I didn't wear sunscreen, and it was completely sunny. Temperature was like 70 degrees. It's pretty nice, and I'm absolutely fried. I did not put suntan lotion on. I didn't really think of it. I usually don't, and that's what happened. RK, yes, I did. It's a long explanation, so if you want to see the part where I think you can go back a little bit on YouTube in terms of the live stream. So if you go back like 6 minutes, maybe you'll probably catch the beginning of it. It's like a 2 to 3 minute explanation. It kind of gives you an idea of what the cap is. But yeah, I mean, it's a detailed explanation. It took me like, I can probably go back over it a little bit, but I literally just said it. So if you go back a few minutes on the live stream, you can see it. Tomorrow and Tuesday for Denton and Sanger. All right. Then I don't think tomorrow we'll see any severe weather in Denton. Again, there might be an isolated storm, but you know the HR is not really showing anything for anything. But I don't really think we'll see any severe weather on Monday in Denton County. Again, there's a possibility. It's like a 5% chance at this point, which, you know, 5% could mean 100% tomorrow, but it's really a low end chance for Denton County. In terms of Dallas County, it could be as high as, like, at this point, forecasting around 20 to 25% chance for there, because of, you know, the cap situation, kind of how it's set up at this point. Tuesday, it's a different story. I think we'll definitely see severe weather in DFW somewhere. It might be Denton County, it might not, but this is kind of, again, a little bit of a look at the storm setup for Tuesday. You can see some storms right around 5 o'clock in just west of I-35, and then eventually they move into DFW right around 5 to 6 o'clock, maybe 7 o'clock as well. So, no problem, RK. We'd rather be in Florida. You know, I would rather be in Texas right now. It is so hot here. I mean, well, I mean, it was 70 today, so it was nice. The cold front, there was a cold front that came through a few days ago, but man, it is so. I mean, it's usually humid. Today was dry and it was cold. That's why I was like, all right, I'm not gonna wear sunscreen. But you kind of forget that the sun is even closer to the earth than, you know, what it is during the winter when it's cooler and it's drier. So I kind of just completely blanked out on the fact that I should probably be wearing sunscreen. And I am so burnt. It's not even funny. Like, my arms are red and my neck is burning. It was a interesting day. The sunnier it is, the more the cap is weakening. In some instances, or well, most instances, yes. The cap usually weakens because of the temperature, so, you know, if there's more sun, the temperature usually goes up. Yes. That's kind of the answer to that question, CC. Yeah, so any storms that develop on Tuesday will be a concern without a doubt. I mean, we're going to be watching Tuesday very closely because all ingredients, again, are in place. Monday and Tuesday are the same way. I mean, both of them will have that chance for severe weather anywhere in DFW. But it's just the big question is, you know, again, tomorrow, will there be a cap? How strong will the cap be? And how many storms will we see in result of, you know, if the cap does weaken? And then Tuesday is a different story. We will have no cap basically in Western DFW, or a very weak one, which will prompt that potential for some discrete supercells with all threats again possible. So any storms that do develop Tuesday will definitely pose a threat potentially to DFW. So we will have to watch Tuesday a lot more closely than tomorrow. No, I'm going to college in Florida, so I'm here. And it's really hot. Well, it's not hot. I'm just, you know, my body temperature is just so high because of how, it's not high, but more of my like face is red, so it's, you know, it's hot. It's a mess. Today was obviously, I actually scored pretty good today. I shot an 89 on a rating 140 golf course, if you know anything about golf, which is pretty good. But I played pretty well for getting this burnt. I didn't realize I was sunburnt until I got back. What about Sherman for tomorrow? Sherman might see a storm, but I think it's kind of a low-end threat for Sherman. Again, probably about a 10 to 15% chance you see a storm. It will really, again, depend on if there's a cap tomorrow or how strong the cap is tomorrow by the time storms are meant to develop. So you think the enhanced risk will go further south? For Tuesday, yes, I do think it will. Again, this is Tuesday. I think that we could see this drop a bit further south like this, or maybe even a little bit further to the west, maybe by 20 to 30 miles. But yeah, I do think this might extend a bit further to the south, maybe including Waco. I was there for about 5 months years ago. That was the worst sunburn I've ever experienced. Yeah, the sun is really different in Florida. I mean, in comparison to Texas, the latitude in Florida is obviously, we're closer to the equator than in terms of, Texas. So there's definitely a bit of a difference, even though Texas is a lot warmer during the summer. You guys are usually, obviously, Texas is usually a little bit drier. Florida, it's just humid and it's warm all summer long. So. And obviously the sun's a lot closer. I usually don't wear sunscreen to begin with, though, when I go golfing, but that's during the winter. Spring, it's a completely different story. I got completely burnt today, though. It was not a good experience. Tuesday in Denton, storms around what time? Let me go back to the radar. I think it's right around 3 to 6 will probably be the best chance. Here's a little bit of a timeline. So again, 5 o'clock, closer to Denton County, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Just a general idea. I mean, this could change by a couple of hours, but I would expect the best chance for Denton County for storms will probably be right around 4 to 7 o'clock. Yeah, 89 is not a bad score, but I usually shoot in the low 80s on courses that are more like, average or so. The course I play on is extremely hard, so it's obviously a lot harder to play. When's the severe weather end in Texas? For this week, it'll be Wednesday. It'll be like Wednesday afternoon, like by about 11 or 12 o'clock in DFW, we will be done with severe weather, at least for, the Monday through Wednesday threat. There might be a low-end threat on Saturday, but it looks like it'll primarily just be rain. There may be a chance for isolated severe weather on Monday, but it's just a little bit too far to kind of get to that. That's next Monday. And it seems like every Monday we're going to see severe weather this year. I mean, next Monday we already have a very low end chance for severe weather. Now things could change, so we'll watch it. But at this point, it's way too early to be forecasting that. That's crazy, David. Actually crazy. Yeah, I would never. I thought about going, taking a nap at a beach once, and I was just like, there's no way I'm risking it. Especially if I fall asleep and I literally don't get back up and I'm just sunburnt when I get up. I've actually thought of that before, since I've been in Florida. But when does the severe weather end in Texas? I just said that. Tornado outlook map for Tuesday. That's actually not available yet, but I would expect, I'll kind of go to the outlook. So this is the outlook as of right now. The highest tornado threat I would expect to kind of be in this area here. Probably be about a 5 to 10% probability somewhere in there. That will be out, though, in about 3 hours. If you want to go to the North Texas Weather Center website, you can always check that out as well, the NTXWeatherCenter.com. There's a little section if you want to take a quick gander at it. We'll go ahead and pull it up. The Severe Weather Center tab, and then you can look at all the outlooks. We have all the outlooks on our website. Again, these all cost money to uprun, so if you want to look at them, I would really appreciate it. They are basically the same thing as Storm Prediction Center has, but they're more focused on our location, and they all also automatically update, so it's pretty feature on our website. I'll sleep on Pensacola Beach. That is very, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would never want to fall asleep at a beach. I can definitely tell you that. All right, if you have any other questions, let me know. I will be live again for a while. As long as I have questions, I will keep being live. I've kind of already gone over the forecast. I might go over it one more time at some point, but again, this is kind of what we're looking at again for Tuesday. I think, again, it will probably be the worst day for severe weather. Yeah, if you haven't already, by the way, make sure to follow us on Facebook. If you're new, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Would appreciate it. We always have videos on our YouTube channel, updating you about the severe weather potential for any days, and we'll also show you any other forecasts that you need to know about. So make sure to check out our YouTube videos as well. They're more condensed, have more details for you in a more condensed amount of time that you need to know. This live stream is more of just a lot more because I am going over more details and a lot more specific details about what certain things mean. I kind of already went over the cap question, by the way. I know somebody asked that a while ago, but if you are curious about the cap, it is very interesting. Go back to where the cap is here. All right, so this is the look at the cap. Now, as I kind of said before, the pinks, whites, reds, tans, yellows, those are all pretty much strong cap. Now, when we start to see more of a white color, which is literally anything outside of here, this is all, this is all white right here. But that's obviously away from the dry line, away from the cold front. But when you look at this, here's the dry line right here, kind of set up. There's a strong cap in place. So let's go ahead and go back to making this a little bit larger. Enlargement. All right, here's the dry line here in North Texas going into tomorrow. This is at 9 in the morning when we're not going to be seeing any severe weather. There's a very strong cap out in front of this dry line. You can very well see that. There is a lot of reds, purples, nothing that is indicant of maybe seeing some severe weather. Now, eventually going throughout the day, you can start to see this is closer to about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Start to see now, here's where your dry line is. Now, it does extend a bit further up to the north, but it doesn't really extend up to the north up until probably about 4 or 5 o'clock. You'll see that in a second. Now, closer to DFW, for example, the cap does start to weaken. So here's your dry line. All right, I'm going to drop just a little further back to the west. But here's a look at the dry line, and here's where a little bit of instability, or not instability, but the cap starts to weaken a bit. So you can see closer to here and northern DFW, there's a little bit of a weakening of the cap. Now, anywhere right along that dry line that has that cap weakening, that's where you'll see storms develop. You'll not necessarily see storms develop back out to the east in most scenarios, unless there's something aiding them to develop. In this case, a dry line would be the only thing that's going to help these storms develop, unless an outflow boundary develops from one of these storms. Closer to about 21Z, which is about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, this is where the dry line is. I'll redraw the line. And here's where your dry line is right here. Now, you can see there's a much more indicant area of where that cap is weakened. So going back to where we're looking, there's a much weaker cap here off to the northeast. A lot of this white color will represent a basically weakened cap, basically meaning there's no cap there. The warm air aloft basically is turned into more of a cold air, which allows for storms and clouds to develop in that kind of condition. Now, closer to DFW, there is a little bit of an area that we can kind of see that's more gray, which might indicate that we see some storms develop in that area. So that's going to be something to watch out for. But again, those grays do represent a weak cap. Well, not a weak cap, but weak enough at least for storms to develop. All right, going closer to about, this is around 6 o'clock or so, you can start to see the cap kind of starts to fill in a little bit more closer to DFW. But let's take a look at the actual radar real quick and kind of comparison. Now, I'll kind of draw you an area of where those storms are likely going to exist tomorrow in terms of at least the HRR model. And going to this and going to around that time frame, you can start to see the discrete supercells are primarily back off to the northeast, where the cap is weaker, where the dry line is already set up. Closer to DFW, not really showing anything, but again, there could be maybe some storms here at DFW. There's a lot of little things that can make a difference, and obviously the models don't always pick up on those, so that's just something to kind of keep in mind. But yeah, that's another detailed explanation I kind of already went over it once. But Reed Timmer said there's a potential for high risk on Tuesday. I think that's a bit of a stretch in my opinion. Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch because of what, the setup is there, right? But it's a matter of, how many storms we see. And at this point, at least what the HRR model is showing now, a model isn't always going to tell you everything, but at least what it's showing right now, it's showing a few discrete supercells that could have all threats possible. I wouldn't be shocked if there was a high threat, but I would definitely be a little bit surprised because I think the highest will go as a moderate threat. At least at this point. Now, let me go back to the... Actually, I won't do that. I'm just going to go back to my website, but I don't have that up. Oklahoma. Yeah, there might be fun. Let me go to Oklahoma real quick. Let's look at that. I haven't really looked a whole lot of Oklahoma in terms of the future radar, but this is Tuesday. Doesn't really show anything on Tuesday. All right, let's go to the NAM model. I don't think there'll be a high risk on Tuesday for Oklahoma. The NAM model doesn't even show anything. It's not really useful. Really not being very useful, but yeah, I don't think that we'll see anything crazy, at least on, I don't think we'll go to a high threat. I think the highest we'll go is a moderate threat, but even then it's a little bit of a stretch. I don't think we'll get to a high threat though, for severe weather. That would be a bit surprising to me because I just don't think that'll happen, at least with the setup is there again, but it just doesn't look like we'll have, all the ingredients together for that, discrete supercells having all sorts of strong tornadoes and a lot of hail, damaging winds. I just don't think it's enough. There might be one for Wednesday back out to our east, but even then, I don't think we'll see one then. By the way, looking at Wednesday, I didn't really pull this up, but Wednesday we'll have a line of storms probably develop in the early morning hours, so right around 5 to 6 o'clock. So this is kind of what we're looking at. I didn't really show this yet, but you can see maybe some strong storms, damaging winds, maybe a little bit of quarter-sized hail possible with these once they develop. But yeah, that's what we're looking at for Wednesday. All right, if anyone else has any questions, let me know. Again, I'll be live for a little bit. You think the cap will break for Tuesday? Yes, the cap will basically be broken for Tuesday. As I kind of already explained, there'll be a lot of convection. We're gonna have, a lot less cap. We're gonna have a lot more instability. Setup looks great for Tuesday in terms of severe weather. Let me go back to the. All right, this kind of looking at Tuesday, so you can see some storms developing here over DFW right around 4 to 5 o'clock. There will be a lot less of a cap on Tuesday. Monday there will be again a stronger cap, but models are split right now. Yeah, I mean, Tuesday I think there's almost a definite chance they'll see a cap, basically the cap weekend. Monday is just a completely different story, at least for DFW. I don't think the cap will break completely. There might be a couple of storms that are outliers, but other than that, I don't think the cap's going to weaken enough for us to see much severe weather on Tuesday. Or Monday, excuse me. On Tuesday, I think there's a better chance, though. Tuesday, I think most of us will see about 40 to 50% of us will see storms in DFW. So, seeing the FB3 for Tuesday in Oklahoma and Texas. FB3. Take a look. Oh wow, yeah, that is very explosion. That's a big explosion right there of storms. Yeah, I mean that I don't usually use this model, but yeah, it's not impossible to see something like this. But if this happens, we could definitely see a possible tornado outbreak. But again, Oklahoma, I kind of saw this question already. Oklahoma, I don't think we'll see a tornado outbreak or any. Right, I don't think we'll see a high risk there. We'll look at, but I don't think. Look at the ability here is actually fairly interesting. It's around 2,500. Let's look at the tornado parameter on this one. Tornado parameter is peaking at about 2 with these storms. Yeah, obviously the storms move out. So get a whole lot, but kind of important. Shear values aren't crazy through the roof, but there will definitely be enough shear, I think, on Tuesday for us to see, obviously, some rotating supercells with the potential for a few tornadoes. Yeah, it's definitely a possibility for Tuesday. Yeah, that's right now. Again, if you're just joining us and you're looking for a very specific forecast on what to expect, you can go back about to the first 2 minutes of the stream, and there's a full detailed breakdown there. First about 10 minutes or so with everything that you need. Now, if you're new here, make sure to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Said it a million times. I think I'm going to make my YouTube forecast here in a second. Just do it on live stream. No questions. Do a forecast. I've not done it yet. Actually might be a little bit complicated. All right, I'll just set it up for now, but I'm not going to actually do it. All right, let's bring this to the front. You think the SBC will upgrade to moderate threat? What do you mean, like for Tuesday? There might be a moderate threat on Tuesday, but it's honestly I'm not 100% sure. Some still outlying questions that we don't have complete answers to. Guys, tomorrow morning's forecast is going to be long. That's all I gotta say. This is gonna be a bit of a jam-packed forecast. I'm gonna remove that slide though. Weather outlook for. I do all my forecasts the night before because it makes it easier. Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, I think that Tuesday we'll see a possibly a moderate risk, but again, it depends on a lot of things. Tomorrow doesn't look like too much unless you live in Arkansas. Yeah, tomorrow, yeah, that's what I'm kind of saying. The cap is going to be weaker in Arkansas, and the dry line is going to be up there, so I think severe storms will probably fire up in Arkansas in comparison to at least North Texas. Our first little area in here of this long forecast. Temperatures. Every day. Then. Points. It'll be humid. It'll be something else. By the way, this is the behind the scenes of me making a forecast for YouTube. Putting a bunch of these things together and kind of making a forecast out of it. It's a lot easier than what you do on TV. I mean, I've obviously, you might have seen some of my green screen forecasts back in earlier this semester or earlier this year. I did a few green screen forecasts and they were a lot. I mean, they took an hour or two to make because, you know, I was making one for every day and I was only making it for one day. I mean, like usually when you're at the news station or something like that, you already have one kind of made for you. I had to make my own, like, you know, fully. So it was a lot more work in terms of, you know, what to do. And then go ahead and bring up the NAM3K model for the final one. I didn't even show the 7-day forecast yet. But... well, all right, this is Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, there we go. All right, 7-day forecast. It is fully updated too. Actually, not fully updated, but pretty close to it. I have to change the day out because tomorrow is Monday. Well, get off track. NAM has showed absolutely nothing for Tuesday. Yeah, I don't know what's up with the NAM model. I don't think we'll see absolutely nothing. The cap is not going to be that strong. At least what I think. I don't think it will be that strong, but I think the NAM model is just tripping right now on everything there. Quite funny though. I'm kind of surprised by that. You'd think it would be high. I mean, like you would think that the NAM model would be showing something because it usually does in all severe weather events. This one is just not showing anything. It shows something for Wednesday, but it doesn't even show anything for Tuesday. Quite interesting. Yeah, I like the NAM sometimes, but like it's usually not that accurate. I mean, for squall lines and stuff, it's not, you know, terribly accurate because that's usually all it predicts. I mean, it usually just predicts this. I mean, usually just shows, you know, lines of storms. On almost any severe weather event too. It's not just like this one. I mean, it shows it on, and I think there will probably be a line of storms on Wednesday morning, but I'm taking Calc 1, not Calc 2. Calc 1 is so easy. Never even done calculus before. Calc 2, I'm a little bit worried about because I've never done it. I think it's the hardest calculus class to take, I'm pretty sure. This humidity on Tuesday, I mean, it's going to be so humid Tuesday morning. Everybody's going to wake up and it's going to be like, who wants to be outside? Go to a different computer. Look at the NAM real quick. The NAM model even shows higher dew points. Or at least, yeah, it shows a little bit higher by a degree. Yeah, Calc 2 I'm a bit worried about. Calc 1 I'm not worried about at all. I mean, like I think I have like a 95 in Calc 1. So it's like pretty easy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is the hardest calc class. Calc 2 is a lot more tedious, I've heard. How far into it are you though? Are you like, it's April, so I'm assuming you're kind of like far into it, but I could be wrong. I have not even started it. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. I will be live for a little bit longer. I have to make a forecast, and I also have to make a 7-day forecast, which I don't feel like doing on stream. Start making it on stream. Still in the screen view? Sort of. We'll go with it. I have to make a 7-day forecast. This is how I do everything, by the way. Make it easy, but it just, yes, a little bit easier to do. This makes it a little bit easier. What's 3 days from now? Is that Wednesday? Tuesday, Wednesday. By the way, if anyone's wondering what I'm doing, I'm making a 7-day forecast for a few days out. This is not the actual forecast. Clarification. Saving myself a little bit of time while I'm streaming. Again, if you have any questions about the severe weather coming up, you can post them in our Facebook or YouTube chats. And other than that, this stream will probably end in a few minutes. All right, we're about to take our last midterm a couple of weeks ago, and our final in 4. All right, wait. Our professor makes us write answers, quoting theorems and stuff like that. Oh god, that's not fun. Yeah, I'm kind of worried about Calc 2, but Calc 1 is a breeze. I mean, I've had like almost no issues with it. The hardest test was the derivatives, and that was I got like 100 on that. So it's not for class. Oh no, make voice change. I'm not doing a voice changer on live stream. That would be pretty funny though. Actually, I mean I could, but I don't really want it. Open. Funny. I'm not sure if you answered this yet, but Aubrey, Texas, the next few days. What do you mean by conflicting information? So Monday in DFW, we'll see the potential for maybe an isolated discrete supercell or two. It'll be pretty isolated though. This is tomorrow's outlook. Most severe weather should probably be out here to the east. If any develops, again, it's a 20 to 25% chance anybody sees storms tomorrow. It's a very low-end risk. I would not be too concerned about it, but just make sure you have your proper precautions in place. On Tuesday, it's a different story. You can see this is Tuesday's outlook. I think most of us will probably see some storms. About 50 to 60% maybe of us do see storms. And if we do, discrete supercells will be possible. All threats of severe weather will be possible. Damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes, all possible. So a lot to watch on Tuesday. Wednesday, likely not going to see a whole lot. Probably just a low-end threat of severe weather, primarily for Eastern DFW, and that would primarily be during the morning hours of Wednesday. Limits? Yeah, I'm pretty good with limits. I mean, at least what we did for our unit was pretty easy for limits in calc. If you need me to elaborate on anything else, Miranda, just let me know. But that's kind of the general picture right now, what we're looking at for the next 3 days. This is Wednesday, by the way, if you're looking at timing. 5, 6, storms start to develop around 5 to 6 o'clock. Eventually by 7, a little line develops, and it'll move off to the east. It'll be clearing up for Wednesday. Wednesday should be fairly quick in terms of storms. I mean, we're looking, let me go to the dew points. It's not on one slides for my forecast tonight. Let's go to the HRR, and then I'll show you the dew point, or actually the NEM model, and then the dew. This will give you an idea of how humid it'll be on Wednesday. I think the dew points are going to drop pretty sharply. This one, the dry line is moving through. So here's the storms. Kind of interesting. It's back off to the east. Here's your dry line moving through. This will push through DFW during the late morning, early afternoon hours, and then we'll eventually dry out here at DFW. Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. All right, if you have any other questions, let me know. I will be live for a couple more minutes. Anybody has any last-second questions? I do have to do a forecast off stream. I also have to do a 7-day forecast off stream, so I have to do a few things. So why I'm ending it a little bit earlier than I was going to. Yeah, a lot of I had to explain this to so many people today. A lot of the weather apps in general will only show you one computer model. They're not updated by humans usually. And they're also usually going to show you, again, one computer model. Oh yeah, they don't show you specific information like details and stuff like that. So if you're ever looking for specific information, you should always refer to people like, North Texas Weather Center or, the National Weather Service. Any of those pages will give you specific details on what to expect. The weather app and stuff like that, they don't show you specific details, and they might show you 20% chance of rain. It does not show you the thunderstorm icon, and it might immediately think that there's not going to be storms. There could be storms, and it says 20%. There is a 20% probability of storms according to that app, but it's a whole discussion, and it's not usually, they don't show you what you all need to know in most cases. They will show you some stuff. They'll show you pretty broad information, but other than that, it does not give you a whole lot of information. High 2 points, 60s 2 points with high temperatures in the 80s on Tuesday is going to feel terrible. Yeah, it's going to be, heat indexes will be through the roof on Tuesday. Elijah, I don't expect a whole lot in terms of severe weather tomorrow. This is what we're looking at for tomorrow in terms of the outlook. I've kind of been on the slide for a while, but there's a slight risk of severe weather. But again, I think isolated severe storms possible in this region here tomorrow, but I don't really expect a whole lot in Denton County or Tarrant County. It's like a 5, maybe 10% chance there. Out to the east, about a 20% chance in this area here of maybe a couple of storms, but it's going to all depend on the cap and how strong the cap is. 20% off the screen, but that's in terms of what we're expecting tomorrow. Should we have more? Should we? So, yeah, we should probably have more. So yeah, we'll probably have more severe storms on Tuesday. Tuesday is our greatest threat for severe weather. Target for Tuesday. It's a little bit early. I'll kind of give you an idea of where I think the storms will probably be the worst. Or at least within, DFW. If I can find the radar. Here it is. I'd probably expect it to probably be right around here. In this area, maybe. But just west of I-35. But there's still about a day or so to kind of figure that out. So I'll have more information on that tomorrow. I'll probably have better timing and whatnot as well. Reed Timmer is hyping up Tuesday so badly. I honestly don't watch his videos. I don't. I don't usually watch other people's videos, not because it's not going to, benefit me, but it doesn't usually, help. I don't want to follow somebody else's forecast. So the National Weather Service, I sometimes will, I usually do follow the National Weather Service forecast, but I don't usually go off of other people's information anymore. I used to do that with a few other people, and it just screwed up my forecast so badly that I just stopped doing it entirely. So I don't anymore usually watch other people, because it just doesn't help me in terms of forecasting. Usually when I forecast on my own, I'm a lot more accurate than when I watch somebody and they say, there's going to be all these tornadoes and all this stuff. Reed Timmer is kind of a good example of that. Sometimes he's a little bit exaggerating on some stuff. I don't think we're going to see a significant tornado outbreak on Tuesday, but there might be. I'm not going to rule it out, but I just don't think it's going to be a massive one. But there's a chance. Again, it depends on the cap. It depends on a bunch of ingredients. We'll know more about that tomorrow for sure. Yeah, Decatur will probably be a better area. Decatur, Weatherford, those kind of areas might have a better potential Tuesday. But again, probably watch my Tuesday morning forecast, because they'll definitely have more details on that regard. Because I think that the worst of the storms will probably develop right in this area here. And they're usually most discreet around then, and they probably have the best chance for maybe a tornado or two that range. No problem, Peter. Good old Wise County is the bullseye. Wise County, I don't even think it's had a tornado yet this year. Wise County seems to be the area where storms usually develop. I remember last year, I can't remember exactly, but I remember most of the storms would develop way back out in western Texas, and they would eventually make it to DFW, and they'd just be so weak. Or they'd either be there or back out here to like the east, and they'll develop here. There was like no in between. Now this year, it seems like everything's developing in like this area here. And severe storms just kind of happen. Storms just kind of fire up closer to DFW, it seems like, this year. Which isn't good, because obviously there's more severe weather. There's technically an EF0. Oh, was there? I didn't realize it. Well, there might have been. Honestly, there was like 16 tornadoes or 18 tornadoes or something crazy on that Monday. So I was covering so many stories on that too. I was making a bunch of news articles and a bunch of other stuff. So I don't know the exact places. I know some of them, but not all of them. Monte County. There's one in Monte. Yeah, there was a Bowie tornado. I know that. Jacksboro tornado. There's one in Era, which is in County. There's a bunch off to the northwest, though. I mean, there was a bunch. I kind of want to bring up the graph, but I don't remember how to find it anymore. I know there was a lot. This might show it. Well, here's a little count. I didn't even realize I already had this yet. This is for this year so far. This is including all the events that we've seen so far. There's already been 23 tornadoes, apparently. There's 4 in Monte County. There was 1 in Wise County, so you're right about that. There was already 3 in Tarrant County. Those were all weak. 1 in Rockwall County, 1 in Fannin County, 1 in Grayson, 1 in Cook, Denton, Wise, Jack, Palo Pinto. And there was 2 in Bell County, which I don't cover any of these areas. There's 1 in Limestone, 1 in Falls, and 1 in Lam. I'm probably saying that wrong. But all of those counties down here, these counties, I don't even cover. I think at least. Figure that out. I don't think I do. I don't cover Limestone, yeah. I know I don't cover these three. I was wondering about Limestone County. I don't cover Limestone County, but yeah. That's kind of the overlook at the tornadoes that we've seen so far this year. Why is it so windy this year? It's not windy this year, really. It's because April is usually our windiest month of the year because of how many cold fronts we see and all this other, basically all the low pressure systems and the cold fronts. And basically during this time of the year, we see the most wind because of that. It's not really windy this year. I mean, it's been a more active year for the most part, but we've obviously not seen the rain that we need to see. It's pretty interesting. I didn't know the National Weather Service already had a map out like this. Let me go to the 2021 map. I'm curious. I don't remember there being much in 2021. This is your map for 2021. There was nothing up here in northwestern DFW in terms of tornadoes. There's 4 in Ellis County, which I remember those. There's 3 in Hill County, and other than that, there's a bunch of 1s. There's 2 in Dallas County. It's crazy. I was just kind of thinking about that, like, these years. Very interesting. 2020, which was the first year I started doing North Texas Weather Center. At the time, it was Argyle, Texas Weather. Most of the tornadoes were kind of scattered, but most of them were in northwestern DFW and far northeastern North Texas. I feel like it's been like that for the past few weeks. Yeah, I mean, most of the time we'll see a lot more wind during the April time frame, and as well as March. March and April seem to be the windiest months of the year. Not by a large stretch by any means, but we usually have most of the cold fronts and low pressure systems and high pressure. We'll have a lot more pattern changes, I should say, during this time of the year. So usually why it's like that. I was in Bridgeport. I don't know why I just said Bridgestone. Bridgestone is a tire company. I was in Bridgeport and I missed chasing that tornado in Jacksboro. Yeah, that tornado was crazy. I mean, I don't know if you could be able to see it. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was rain wrapped, wasn't it? That EF3. Because if it was rain wrapped, I don't think you would have been able to see it to begin with. I don't really remember. 2 weeks. A lot of things have happened between now and then. I mean, I've been so busy. I'm obviously burnt. I mean, as I kind of said earlier in the stream, I literally am so sunburnt from golfing today. I didn't wear any sunscreen. The sun was out all day. I thought it was the winter for some reason, so I was like, I don't have to wear sunscreen. The sun isn't, close enough to the earth, so I don't have to worry about it. UV index apparently was 10, so I was like, all right, whatever. I'll go out and probably won't get burnt. I am burnt all across my neck. I am burnt on my arms. It is just a mess. And yeah, I'm out of it today. I'm just so burnt. It's not even funny. I'm wearing sunscreen, but I played good at golf today, so I guess that's a good thing. I was out there for like 4 hours, so. Yeah, it was rain wrapped. Yeah, that's what I thought. Most of the tornadoes on that Monday were rain wrapped. I think most of them this year in general have been rain wrapped. The only one I don't think that was really rain wrapped was the Blue Ridge tornado. Much more dry in April. That's not necessarily true. In terms of, it's the driest month of the year is usually. I know the most precipitant month of the year is February. I don't think April's that dry. On average, at least, it's not that dry. I'll have to look at. I can't remember what the exact months are in order, but pretty sure the driest month of the year is around August. We see a lot more pattern changes though in April, so. Again, if you're just joining us and you need some specific answers to questions, you can always go back to the very beginning of the stream. I had a full 10-minute breakdown and detailed forecast of everything that you need to know. You can always ask questions as well if you have any specific questions. I will be live for a little bit longer. I said 2 more minutes like 20 minutes ago, but I'll keep going for a little bit longer. I think last stream we had a lot more questions, so it's here a little bit longer, but. Oh yeah, April this year has been pretty dry so far. Let me bring. I think I can bring up what the actual precipitation has been this year so far in this month. Well, April has only been going for like 10 days, but let's see. Observed precipitation. Yeah, that's not going to tell us absolutely anything. Okay, what's that? I'm not sure if I can actually look at the observed precipitation. Might be this. All right, so this is the precipitation over the last about, zoomed in, right? Okay. This is precipitation since April 6th. So we've actually seen a good amount of rain so far this month. Overall, this entire winter, or really this entire year, has been below average, but we saw a lot of rain the other night in the areas in Collin and Denton counties, mainly because of that really heavy rain band that came through this past Monday, which, you know, brought some flash flooding to Collin County. But yeah, I mean, this is the rain that we've seen so far. It's nothing. It's definitely good for this month, but I mean, we're gonna have to see a lot more to get out of this drought. The drought right now, let me bring that up. Look at the drought across North Texas. So this is the drought monitor, and it has improved since the last one that came out last Thursday. So you can see that a moderate drought for some portions in between, you know, little bend here. I'm not sure what you really even call it, but basically between the Red River and DFW, and then a severe drought still ongoing for most of DFW, also eastern North Texas and back off to the southwest. And eventually there's a extreme drought and also an exceptional drought areas here. And I think that drought will continue to rise in these areas here, but I think it'll start to go down a bit this week in these areas where there might be. Then it says 1979, April 10th was the anniversary tornado that went through Wichita Falls. Yes, I actually did hear about that. I saw that today. It's been years now. How many years is that? Do some math. 43? 44? Quick math. 43. I'm right. 43. 43 years since that tornado, though. Yeah, there was a lot of tornadoes in that day in 1979. Crazy. Wasn't 1979 one of the worst years for tornadoes, too? North Texas. Let me look at that. Let's see. 1979. Yeah, there was 48 tornadoes in 1979, which is about the 7th most, I think. I'm not looking at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 most. So that year had the 6 most tornadoes on record. The most tornadoes that we've ever seen in a year was back in 2015. We saw 76. Second place to that is 73. Back 1994. Yeah. Fun facts, but you were there? Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, that was obviously a very dangerous day. I think there was like 26 or 52 deaths, somewhere in that range. I'm just trying to hear it off. I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head. There's thousands of injuries. There's a bunch of stuff. I mean, it was crazy. I did read into it a little bit, though. Very interesting. Obviously, back in 1979, there was not much of a way to receive warnings except from TV, so. By the way, fun fact, we've averaged 24 tornadoes per year from 2010 to 2020. This year so far, we've already seen 23, so we are looking at above average year in terms of tornadoes. And out of the tornadoes that we see in North Texas, 1,405 have been weak ones, EF0 to EF1. 494 have been strong, EF2 to EF3, and then violent, 50 of them, EF4 to EF5. If I do the math on that real quick, let's do 1,400 plus about 450, 1,850, do 50, 1,900. So 1,900, so 50 divided by 1,900. So for basically every 50 tornadoes, we see one strong, or one violent tornado, EF4, EF5. Basically what that's saying. Most of the tornadoes we see though are weak. I mean, the chances of a violent tornado being F4 or F5 or EF4 or EF5 are, oh, it's like a 2% chance or something crazy. It's really low. Still on this graphic. Something else. This one. Throw one on there. I was in the Air Force. Oh, really? That's interesting. Didn't even know what it was. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, it's not really back in the day for me, but back in, you know, the 1970s, 1980s, there wasn't really a way to receive warnings. You know, weather wasn't, you know, something that was super searched into a whole. I mean, there was obviously a lot of, there's meteorologists or stuff like that. It's just the weather itself was not as predictable as it is now. It's a lot more predictable nowadays. And probably by 2100, weather might be completely predictable. I mean, we might be able to predict when a tornado is happening, where, or it might even be happening in the next 30 years. I don't know. It might be happening pretty soon. But, that's good. There will be a day that it comes where we have the perfect math equations for tornadoes and stuff like that, where we'll be able to determine where a tornado happens, when, hail, when it'll happen, when, that sort of thing. And when that day comes, my job will not be existent. No, probably will be still. Different manner. Lots of sludge, debris. Sherrill Park Golf Course in Richardson, Texas, on last Wednesday. Last Wednesday. In Texas? What was the debris from? Oh, was it from the wind? You forgot to apply more sunscreen? I have a very similar story to that. I literally went out golfing today for 4 hours in the sun, and I am completely fried. Looked like a wall cloud that came down. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, that's scary. I mean, obviously back then, not everybody knew what a tornado was. Obviously nowadays, almost everybody does because it's pretty relevant. But where do you think tornadoes are going to form for Tuesday? Tornado threat, I think, will be greatest in this area here. Again, it's subject to change. We have 36 hours or so until this even happens. So, see what happens. But that's what we're looking at right now. Oh, it's from heavy rain, really? Huh. It's Wednesday. Do you even have rain on Wednesday, or was the rain from Monday? Clean up on Wednesday? Is that what you're saying? I don't remember. Days are going by so fast. I can't remember what Wednesday even happened. I don't even remember what happened on Wednesday. I'm just going with the flow right now. I mean, I had a lot of stuff between Wednesday and now, so. Obviously, the severe weather I've been mostly focused on since last Tuesday. But this will definitely be something to watch. It's another interesting graph, by the way. This is North Texas. Just gonna pull this up on the screen real quick. All right, so this is the number of tornadoes in North Texas. Now, this is all of North Texas. Basically since reporting existed back in 1880. So it's pretty interesting to look at, but most of the tornadoes that we've seen, 816 of them are EF0s, 589 of them are EF1s, EF2s are 383, EF3s 111, EF4s 47. We've only seen 3 EF5 tornadoes, which, I say only because it's kind of shocking. You would think it'd be a little bit higher than that because we're in Tornado Alley. I'm pretty sure Oklahoma has at least seen 7 or 8, or 10 maybe, portions of central Oklahoma. Obviously, they're in the center of Tornado Alley at this point, but definitely interesting. Apparently, 7 of them are unknown, which was probably recorded way back when. Just an interesting graph to pull up. I mean, most of the tornadoes, people always freak out about tornadoes, but a lot of the time, tornadoes don't cause a significant amount of damage. Most of the time. Now, there's a lot of exceptions. I mean, EF2 tornado can definitely do damage, and EF3 can definitely do damage, but the chance of you seeing a tornado are very slim most of the time. You should always be prepared for one, no matter what. But the chance of it happening are pretty slim usually. Far out ahead of time. But just thinking about, it's usually slim, and then you can see the chances of an EF01 happening, which usually have some damage, but not major damage, like your house being completely ripped off your foundation. I mean, those are pretty much the most common tornadoes, obviously, because they're the lowest intensity. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. What's the tornado threat on Tuesday? I think, the National Weather Service hasn't come out with it yet, but this is back to Tuesday. The tornado threat I still think will be greatest probably in this area here, and it'll probably be, 5 to 10% probability. You think Tuesday and Wednesday will be both moderate risks for severe weather? I don't think we'll see one. I mean, in North Texas specifically, there might be a moderate risk on Tuesday. It's not going to be ruled out. It's low. I don't know if it'll happen yet because I'm not the Storm Prediction Center. I can't just say it will be, but it might. There's a possibility. Ingredients will have to come into play. We'll have to kind of see what happens, but there will probably be one on Wednesday out to our east. Not here in North Texas, though. Rock Springs 1927 EF5s. Yeah, those I do remember seeing that. Yeah, Wednesday, I don't think we'll see a whole lot of severe weather because most of it will happen off to our east. Going back to the computer model here. This is kind of just a little general idea. This is Wednesday morning at 7 in the morning. After you see these storms, we won't see anything during the day. So these storms will go out to the east. Any threat of severe weather will probably be east of I-35E. Yeah, I don't think we'll see a moderate threat on Wednesday. At least for North Texas or anywhere in Texas, I don't think we will. There is a possibility, again, that we see one back out to the east, but I would say that that's kind of out of my realm right now of forecasting because I don't really do forecasting out there. I usually don't look at weather out there unless it pertains to North Texas. The storms in Oklahoma still producing 50 miles per day. Okay, let me look at that real quick. Go to the radar real quick because, you know, might as well. Unless anybody has any questions. That is. There's a severe thunderstorm watch in Oklahoma. This is actually some severe storms. So this was kind of part of what was happening today. We saw a few showers pass through DFW. No, there's a pretty strong cap, so we weren't going to see anything. But there's some severe weather in Oklahoma right now. Nothing crazy, but damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. Quarter-sized hail possible near Fairfax. Pretty much northern Oklahoma. Here at DFW, we are clear. It's sunny. Not sunny. We are clear because it's 10:42 p.m. There's definitely no sun out there right now. Yeah, what's going on there? One storm there, a couple of strong storms near Red Rock, Perry, Covington. Yeah, if you have any questions pertaining to North Texas Weather Center, North Texas weather in general, I mean, just let me know. Just looking at Oklahoma weather, because why not? Just ongoing right now, a couple of severe storms. Pretty sure it's primarily for the threat of damaging winds and maybe some large hail. I don't think a tornado threat's really in play tonight. I think it's a really low-end risk if there's a tornado threat. Let me go to the Storm Prediction Center here and go to day 1 and go to the tornado threat. Yeah, here's your tornado threat. It's the green. So it's a very low threat tonight. Northeastern Oklahoma, southwestern Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, very low end threat. Maybe one tornado with that. But yeah, that's the weather. It's the weather as of right now. Go back to the... So yep, that's what's happening. No problem, Dennis. Appreciate it. Appreciate your compliment. Jarrell, 1997. Yeah, that was a big tornado. That wasn't, I don't even think that was North Texas, though. I think that was like, wasn't that Central Texas? I can't remember where Jarrell is, but I think it's more like Central or the Hill Country or something like that. I don't like when it's windy at night. Yeah, the wind is a little, I remember, you know, when I was in Texas and the wind was really annoying at night. Howling in the houses and stuff like that when it's like 40, 50 miles per hour. It's hard to sleep with, but... what's the mile per hour predicted for Aubrey? I don't think for... I mean, the winds for the next 3 days. That's a good question, because I usually don't look a whole lot into winds unless it's actually meaning something. Today was actually meaning something. Wind speeds are going to probably be between 10 to 15 miles per hour probably over the next few days, without severe thunderstorms factored into that. Wind gusts might be up to like 30 at the most. In terms of severe weather, the possibility of severe weather for anywhere in DFW for tomorrow is very low. For Tuesday, it's possible. It's actually more possible. I would definitely watch out for Tuesday. I think Tuesday will be our worst day for severe weather, and then Wednesday. Pretty low-end threat for anyone in DFW. It should primarily be off to our east. So down here, what do we have happening in DFW for the next few days? A lot of stuff. If you want a full detailed explanation, go to the very beginning of this live stream right around the 2-minute mark. There's a lot of information that you can get from that. But if you want a brief explanation, Monday, again, possible severe storms, 20 to 25% chance off to the east. Pull up Monday real quick. This is Monday. Possible. I mean, it's going to be isolated. It depends off the cap weekends. A lot of variables go into that. Again, a full detailed explanation on that is earlier in this forecast. Going into Tuesday, better chance for severe weather. Probably going to have several discrete supercells with all modes of severe weather possible, especially in the orange shaded region, which includes DFW. Wednesday will primarily be off toward east. So this is a look at the future radar. Most of the storms on Wednesday will be off toward east. This will be between about 4 to about 8 in the morning is when storms are going to develop. And that might develop over portions of eastern DFW. But other than that, damaging winds, large hail possible at those. Any idea on timing? Yeah, so Monday will probably be between about 3 to 7. Storms develop. Tuesday will also probably be between 3 to 7 in DFW. Probably closer to about 6 to 7 o'clock, though. I'd say on the later that scale. And then Wednesday will probably be around 5 to 7. 4 to 7, excuse me. 4 to 7 a.m. So morning on Wednesday. Everything else is afternoon. We have a severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma. Yeah, I was just looking at that. I'll go back to it real quick. No problem, David. I appreciate you watching the stream and appreciate you stopping by and watching the forecast support. By the way, if you haven't already, make sure to follow us here on Facebook for the latest North Texas Weather Center. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to support us even more, become a supporter on Facebook for $4.99 a month. Donate to the stream. It really helps us out. There's a couple severe thunderstorm warnings in Oklahoma now, so again, I'm not an Oklahoma streamer or anything like that, but it's just a brief look. Severe thunderstorm warning in Need, if I'm saying that right. Probably not. That's a bigger city too. Damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour and quarter-sized hail. And then there's one in Fairfax. Same threats. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings there. Tornado threat's pretty low, so I'm not going to look at velocities, but a couple of strong storms near Red Rock. What's going on in Oklahoma? You know, most of us do not live in northern Oklahoma, but kind of look at. Obviously, I've kind of already gone through the forecast a few times now for North Texas for the next several days. So, show this. If you have any last-second questions, let me know. I'm going to probably get off here in a few minutes because I need to make a forecast, make a 7-day forecast, and eventually get to bed so I can get back to college on time tomorrow. Yeah, that's what we're kind of looking at this point. So, any more questions, let me know. Again, if you're just leaving or you want to say goodbye, I would always appreciate if you become a supporter here on Facebook. Really helps our page out. Facebook was generous enough to give us a $20 bonus for every new subscriber this month, so it also helps our page get more. Other than that, following, subscribe to our YouTube channel, always appreciative as well. Just stay updated with us for the latest. Any last second questions? I'll give you about a minute if you have any other questions, but other than that, that will be it for the stream. A great stream. It's been a long one, about 2 hours, I think now. It's been an hour and a half, actually. Felt like 2 hours for some reason. But yeah, that's basically what we're looking at this point. I'm not seeing any other questions, so if you have any questions, you always message me on Facebook. Comment on our YouTube videos. Get back to those usually pretty quickly. Other than that, make sure to follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're new here, again, those are the best ways to keep updated with our page. We're also on Instagram at North Texas Weather Center. Our website has our Severe Weather Center and also a few other things, NTXWeatherCenter.com. This live stream and all of our forecasts are brought to you by Platinum Contracting, the best roofing company here in North Texas. All dents repair. If you have any car dent repairs that you need done, especially for anything related to hail damage, check him out. He's very nice, very great guy to talk to. Jimmy at All Dents Repair. His phone number is on the screen. And also Birdie's Pro Turf landscaping company here in DFW does a great job in landscaping needs. Check him out as well. And his phone number is on the screen if you need to call and get an appointment with him today. All right, thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it. We will be live most likely at some point Tuesday because it's going to be a pretty big day. Monday will be a toss-up. Depends on if there's any severe weather. I have a new microphone, so I should not be able to have my roommate being heard on streams, hopefully. If it does happen, I will probably still go on because I have to stream for these sort of things. So thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night, and we will be keeping you updated again on North Texas Weather Center for the